The rain hammered against the hospital windows like thousands of tiny fists demanding entry. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass of the break room, watching the October storm turn Boston streets into rivers of reflected neon and headlights. My double shift had stretched into 16 hours, and every muscle in my body screamed for rest. "Sophie, you heading out?" Maya poked her head through the doorway, already wrapped in her purple raincoat that made her look like a grape with legs. I loved that woman, but her fashion sense was questionable at best. "Yeah, just psyching myself up for the swim home." I gestured at the downpour with my coffee cup. The liquid inside had gone cold hours ago, but I'd been too busy with back-to-back patients to notice. "Girl, you need to buy a car. This whole I'm saving money by walking everywhere thing is gonna give you pneumonia." She shook her head, braids clicking with the colorful beads she always wore. "Then who's gonna cover my shifts when I'm hungover?" "You mean when you have migraines?" I made air quotes, earning a middle finger as she disappeared down the hallway, her laughter echoing off the sterile walls. I gathered my things slowly, deliberately delaying the inevitable. My apartment was only 6 blocks away, but in weather like this, it might as well have been 6 miles. The ancient umbrella in my locker, a flimsy thing I'd bought from a street vendor for $8, would probably collapse the moment I stepped outside, but it was all I had. The fabric of my scrubs stuck to my skin as I pulled on my thin jacket. I'd been meaning to buy a proper winter coat for weeks now, but between rent increases and my mother's medical bills, luxuries like staying dry ranked pretty low on the priority list. The check I'd sent her last week meant I was living on instant ramen until Friday's paycheck cleared. I pushed through the hospital's revolving doors and gasped as the cold rain hit my face like a slap. The temperature had dropped at least 15 degrees since I'd arrived this morning. My umbrella popped open with a sound like cracking bones, immediately tilting sideways in the wind. Perfect, I made it half a block when I saw him. A man stood beside a sleek black car that looked like it cost more than I'd earned in 5 years. Even through the curtain of rain, I could see the sharp lines of an expensive suit plastered against his frame. He was soaked to the bone, his dark hair dripping water down a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and aristocratic features. He stood perfectly still, staring at his phone with an expression of barely controlled fury that made something in my stomach tighten. The smart thing would have been to keep walking. This was Boston late at night in a neighborhood that got sketchy after dark. Strange men and vulnerable women didn't mix well in any cautionary tale, but I was a nurse. I'd spent 16 hours caring for people who couldn't care for themselves. The instinct to help wasn't something I could just turn off at the end of my shift. "Excuse me?" I called out, immediately feeling ridiculous. "Are you okay?" He looked up and I froze. His eyes were the color of expensive whiskey, amber and gold and utterly, devastatingly beautiful. They locked onto mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. For a moment, neither of us moved. Rain poured between us like a curtain, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled across the city. My car broke down. His voice was deep, rough, with the barest trace of an accent that turned the R's into something almost musical. Italian, maybe. "And my phone is dead." I glanced at the car. It looked fine from the outside, all glossy black paint and chrome accents that probably cost extra. But I didn't know anything about cars. For all I knew, expensive vehicles died as easily as cheap ones. "There's a garage about 3 blocks that way." I pointed east toward the nicer part of the neighborhood. "But they're probably closed by now." "It's almost 11. Sindai, I know." He rubbed a hand across his face, and I noticed his knuckles were tattooed. Dark ink swirled across his skin in patterns I couldn't quite make out in the darkness. "This is not my night." The wind picked up, sending rain sideways, and my pathetic umbrella finally gave up the ghost. One of the spokes snapped with a crack, and the whole thing turned inside out. I stared at it for a moment, then started laughing. Because what else could I do? My umbrella had lasted exactly 1.5 blocks. Something funny? But there was a hint of amusement in his tone now, softening the edges of his frustration. Just my luck. I tried to fix the umbrella, failed, and shrugged. I should have known better than to trust an $8 umbrella in a storm like this. He stepped closer, and I realized how tall he was. At least 6'3", maybe more. His presence seemed to fill the space between us, making the rain and the darkness recede slightly. Water dripped from his jaw, ran down the column of his throat, disappeared beneath the collar of his white shirt. The fabric was nearly transparent now, clinging to broad shoulders and a chest that suggested he spent significant time in a gym. "You should get inside," he said. "You'll catch cold. So will you." The words came out before I could stop them. "Here." I thrust my broken umbrella toward him. "It's not much, but it's better than nothing." He stared at the offering like I'd handed him a live snake. "What? Take it? I'm almost home anyway." That was a lie. I had 5 more blocks to go. "You look like you're waiting for someone and you'll get hypothermia standing out here." "I cannot take your umbrella." He pronounced each word carefully, like he was explaining something to a particularly slow child. "You need it. It's broken." I shook it for emphasis, and more spokes surrendered with pathetic little pops. "And I run hot anyway, never get cold." Another lie. I was already shivering, my teeth starting to chatter. But something about this man, his obvious frustration, his soaking clothes, the way he stood like the world had personally offended him, made me want to help. Made me want to ease whatever burden had put that expression on his unfairly handsome face. "Please." I stepped closer, close enough to smell expensive cologne mixed with rain and something darker, more complex, like leather and tobacco and old books. "It'll make me feel better about my night if I can help someone else with theirs." Those whiskey eyes searched my face for a long moment. I had the distinct impression he was seeing things I didn't intend to show: the exhaustion, the worry, the bone-deep weariness that came from working too hard for too little. Then, slowly, he reached out and took the umbrella from my hand. His fingers brushed mine. Despite the cold rain, his skin was warm. The touch lasted only a second, but I felt it like electricity racing up my arm and settling somewhere in my chest. His eyes widened slightly, like he'd felt it too. "Thank you." The words came out rough, sincere. "This is very kind." "It's just an umbrella." I tried to smile, but my face was going numb from the cold. "Have a good night." "I hope your car situation works out." I turned to go before he could argue further, before I could do something stupid like offer to wait with him or invite him to my apartment to dry off. Strange man, Sophie. Expensive suit, tattooed knuckles. Nothing about this screams good decision. "Wait." His voice stopped me after 3 steps. "What's your name?" I shouldn't have told him. Every instinct screamed at me to lie, to protect myself, to maintain the barrier between strangers in a dangerous city. But when I looked back at him standing there with my pathetic broken umbrella held over his head like a shield against the storm, something in my chest softened. "Sophie, Sophie Bennett, Sophie." He repeated it like he was tasting the syllables, rolling them around in his mouth. "Grazie, Sophie Bennett." "For your kindness." "You're welcome." I trailed off, waiting. A smile ghosted across his lips. It transformed his face from severe to devastating in the space of a heartbeat. "Luca." "Good night, Luca." I turned away before I could see that smile again, before I could do anything else impulsive and stupid. The rain felt colder now, heavier, like it was trying to wash away the warmth of his touch. I ran the remaining blocks to my apartment building, a decrepit 4-story structure that had been charming about 50 years ago and was now just depressing. The brick was crumbling, the windows were single pane and drafty, and the front door stuck so badly I had to shoulder it open. Mrs. Rodriguez was collecting her mail in the lobby, her ancient chihuahua yapping at my ankles. "Sophie, you're soaked." "Just forgot my umbrella," I lied, squeezing water from my hair onto the cracked tile floor. The heating system rattled somewhere in the walls, putting out approximately 0 warmth. I'd been complaining to Mr. Kowalski, our landlord, for 3 months about the broken radiator in my apartment. He kept promising to fix it and never did. "That man was here again today," Mrs. Rodriguez stage whispered, her eyes huge behind her thick glasses. "Mr. Kowalski. He had some other man with him, very official looking. They were measuring things." My stomach dropped. "Measuring what?" "The hallways, the apartments." "He made me let them into mine." She clutched her dog closer. "Sophie, I think he's going to sell the building." "He can't do that." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Mr. Kowalski could do whatever he wanted. We were all month-to-month tenants. No leases, no protection, no rights. Did they say anything? "No, but..." She leaned closer, and I smelled the mentholated cream she used for her arthritis. The other man, he looked at everything like he was calculating numbers. And Mr. Kowalski was nervous. I've never seen him nervous. We said our goodnights, but her words followed me up 3 flights of stairs to my apartment. Number 3B. Home sweet home if home was a 400 square foot box with peeling paint and a radiator that hadn't worked since August. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, finally allowing myself to feel the full weight of exhaustion. My clothes dripped onto the hardwood floor, one of the apartment's few redeeming features, though the boards were warped from water damage. The space was tiny, a main room that served as bedroom, living room, and dining room, a kitchenette that could barely fit one person, and a bathroom where I had to choose between standing in the shower or closing the door, never both, but it was mine. I'd fought for it, sacrificed for it, worked myself to exhaustion to keep it. The thought of losing it made my chest tight with panic. I peeled off my wet clothes and stood in a hot shower until my skin turned pink and the water started running cold. The building's ancient boiler couldn't keep up with demand, which meant showers after 10 p.m. were always a gamble. At least I'd gotten 5 minutes of heat. Wrapped in my threadbare bathrobe, another item on the need to replace list that never got shorter, I made instant ramen in the microwave and ate it standing at the window. The rain had eased to a drizzle. Boston spread out below me, all lights and shadows and possibilities I couldn't afford to chase. I thought about the man with the broken-down car, Luca, the accent, those clothes, the way he'd looked at my $8 umbrella like it was the strangest thing he'd ever seen. He probably thought I was insane offering an umbrella to a stranger. He was probably right. But there had been something in his eyes when he thanked me. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. Like he'd seen something in my impulsive kindness that resonated with something in himself. I shook my head, draining the last of the broth from my cup. I was overtired reading meaning into a simple transaction between strangers. By tomorrow, I'd probably forget all about Luca with his whiskey eyes and tattooed knuckles. I was wrong about that. So incredibly, devastatingly wrong. The next morning came too early and too bright. My phone's alarm dragged me from dreams of rain and amber eyes, and I groaned into my pillow. 7 a.m. I had exactly 1 hour to get ready before my shift started at 8. The apartment was freezing. I could see my breath misting in the air as I stumbled toward the bathroom. The radiator sat silent and useless in the corner, mocking me. I'd stuffed towels around the window frames to block the drafts, but Boston in late October didn't care about my makeshift insulation. I dressed in layers tank top, long-sleeve shirt, cardigan, scrubs on top, and still shivered. My reflection in the bathroom mirror showed dark circles under green eyes, hair that needed cutting, and a general air of exhaustion that no amount of concealer could hide. 28 years old and I looked 40. Coffee, I muttered to myself. Coffee makes everything better. The kitchenette's coffee maker was one of my few splurges, a $12 drip machine that made terrible coffee but made it reliably. I measured out grounds with the precision of a scientist because I couldn't afford to waste even a single scoop. The rent increase Mr. Kowalski had implemented last month meant I was cutting corners everywhere. Cheap coffee. Instant ramen. Walking instead of taking the tea-skipping meals when I could. My mother's voice echoed in my head. Sophie Marie Bennett. You work too hard for too little. She'd said it every time I'd visited her in the nursing home, before the stroke that had stolen her speech. Now she communicated with squeezes of my hand and expressions in her still sharp blue eyes. The facility wasn't fancy, but it was clean and the staff were kind. That cost money. Money I made by working doubles and skipping lunch. The coffee was brewing when I noticed the envelope on the floor by my door. It must have been slipped underneath sometime during the night. Cream-colored paper, expensive weight, my name written across the front in elegant script. No address, no stamp, hand-delivered. Warning bells went off in my head. Who hand-delivered mail at night? I thought about Mrs. Rodriguez's warning about Mr. Kowalski and his mysterious companion measuring the building. Maybe this was an eviction notice. Maybe I ripped it open before I could spiral further into anxiety. Inside was a card, the same expensive cream paper. And beneath the card, wrapped in tissue paper, was an umbrella. Not just any umbrella. A Burberry umbrella, the kind I'd seen in department store windows and never imagined owning. The signature check pattern gleamed even in my apartment's dim lighting. The handle was smooth wood, carved with subtle detail. It was beautiful. It was absurd. It was probably worth more than my monthly rent. My hand shook as I opened the card, a more suitable replacement. Thank you again for your kindness. Elmom Elam Luca. I sat down hard on my bed, staring at the umbrella like it might explode. He'd tracked down where I lived. He'd bought me an umbrella that cost. I grabbed my phone and searched $400 for an umbrella. What the hell? I whispered to my empty apartment. This was insane. This was the kind of thing that happened in movies, not to overworked nurses in rundown Boston apartments. Men didn't buy you designer accessories for lending them broken $8 umbrellas. Men didn't track down your drats and leave gifts at your door, unless they were stalkers. Or worse, I should have been afraid. Every self-defense class, every true crime podcast, every warning my mother had ever given me about strange men should have been screaming in my head. But all I felt was confusion and a strange flutter in my chest that might have been excitement. The umbrella was gorgeous. I ran my fingers over the fabric, feeling the quality of the weave. I'd never owned anything this nice. Never even considered it. This was the kind of luxury that existed in a different world from mine, a world of expensive cars and tailored suits and cologne that probably cost more per ounce than my entire wardrobe. Sophie, you're being ridiculous, I told myself firmly. Return it. Find him somehow and give it back. But even as I thought it, I knew I wouldn't, because buried beneath the confusion and the absurdity was gratitude. He'd been touched by my small kindness, touched enough to go to considerable effort and expense to reciprocate. That meant something. I tucked the card into my dresser drawer and propped the umbrella by my door. I'd use my old backup umbrella for now another street vendor special and figure out what to do about Luca's gift later. The hospital was organized chaos as always. I clocked in, received my patient assignments from the night shift nurse, and dove into the familiar rhythm of checking vitals, administering medications, and offering comfort to people at their most vulnerable. This was what I was good at. This made sense in a way my personal life never quite did. Girl, you look tired. Maya appeared at my elbow during a rare quiet moment, 2 cups of break room coffee in her hands. She passed me one and I accepted it gratefully. Worse than usual, didn't sleep well. I took a sip, winced at the burnt taste. Hospital coffee was somehow worse than my cheap home brew. Had a weird night. Weird how? Did Mr. Kowalski finally fix your heat? I wish. I hesitated, then decided I needed to tell someone before I convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing. Remember that guy I saw last night? The one with the broken down car? The one you gave your umbrella to? Maya's eyes went wide. Sophie, please tell me you didn't. He gave me an umbrella back, a Burberry umbrella. $400, Maya. She choked on her coffee. He what? Left it at my door with a thank you note. I showed her the card on my phone. I'd taken a picture before leaving. Signed LM, that was his name, Luca. Maya grabbed my phone, zooming in on the elegant handwriting. Okay, this is either really romantic or really creepy. I'm leaning toward creepy. How did he find your address? I have no idea. And you gave him your real name? She smacked my arm. Sophie, stranger danger? What if he's some kind of serial killer who targets helpful nurses? He doesn't seem like a serial killer. They never do. That's the whole point. But she was studying the card with interest now, her nurse's brain analyzing details. This paper is expensive. Like wedding invitation expensive. And look at that handwriting, that's old school penmanship. My grandmother writes like that. So what are you saying? I'm saying whoever this Luca is, he's got money and breeding. She handed back my phone. And he's interested in you. He's not interested in me. He's just being polite, reciprocating. Sophie, honey, Maya's expression was gentle now, the teasing gone. Men with this kind of money don't hand-deliver $400 umbrellas to women they're not interested in. This is a statement. A statement of what? I don't know yet. But I think you're about to find out. She was right about that too. 3 days passed. I used the Burberry umbrella exactly once, when my backup broke during another rainstorm, and felt ridiculous carrying something so expensive. People looked at me differently holding it like I was someone who mattered, someone who belonged in Boston's better neighborhoods. It was uncomfortable and thrilling in equal measure. Mr. Kowalski posted a notice in the lobby on Thursday morning. I read it on my way out for a grocery run and my blood went cold. Building sale notice. This property has been sold to Moretti Holdings, LLC. All current tenants will receive formal notification of changes to rental agreements within 30 days. Management thanks you for your cooperation. Moretti Holdings. The name meant nothing to me, but Mrs. Rodriguez was already in the lobby, clutching the notice with shaking hands. "We're going to be evicted," she whispered. "Sophie, where will I go?" "I've lived here for 20 years. "We don't know that yet." I tried to sound confident even as my own panic rose. Maybe the new owners will keep everything the same, but I didn't believe it. When buildings in our neighborhood got sold, it meant one thing: gentrification. Out with the old tenants and with the renovations and the doubled rents. I'd seen it happen to 3 other buildings on this street alone in the past 2 years. I made it through my grocery shopping, ramen, coffee, cheap frozen vegetables in a daze. Back home, I sat at my tiny kitchen table and did the math. Even if the new owners gave me a month's notice, I need first month, last month, and security deposit for a new place. That was 3 months' rent minimum. I had maybe half of 1 month's rent in savings. My phone rang, Mom's facility. I answered with my heart in my throat, always terrified of bad news. "Miss Bennett? This is Carol from Shady Oaks. Your mother is fine," she added quickly, hearing my sharp intake of breath. "But we need to discuss her care plan." 20 minutes later, I hung up with a new problem. Mom needed additional physical therapy sessions if she was going to regain any mobility in her left side. Insurance would cover some of it. The rest, about $300 a month, would be out of pocket. I put my head down on the table and tried not to cry. The smart thing would be to pick up more shifts. I was already working 50 hours a week. I could probably push it to 60. Skip sleep, skip rest days, live on caffeine and determination. I'd done it before. But even as I thought it, exhaustion pulled at my bones. I was so tired. So endlessly, desperately tired. A knock on my door made me jump. I wasn't expecting anyone. Maya was working, and I didn't have friends who dropped by unannounced. For a wild second, I thought maybe it was Luca again, appearing out of nowhere with another expensive gift I didn't know how to handle. But when I opened the door, I found Mr. Kowalski instead, and he looked terrified. "Sophie," his voice cracked. He was a large man, easily 250, with a perpetual scowl that had earned him the nickname Mr. Kowalski, the asshole among the tenants. But right now he looked small, diminished. "Can I come in?" I stepped back wordlessly, and he shuffled into my apartment. His eyes darted around like he expected someone to jump out from behind my secondhand furniture. "I need to tell you something," he said. "About the building. About the sale. Okay, I didn't have a choice." The words rushed out. "I owe money. Bad money to bad people. They were going to—" He cut himself off, rubbing a meaty hand across his face. "I had to sell fast. And the buyer, he paid cash. Over asking, closed in 3 days. Who is Moretti Holdings?" That's the thing. Kowalski met my eyes, and I saw genuine fear there. The Morettis are a family. An old Boston family. Italian. They own half the North End, legitimate and otherwise. My stomach dropped. Otherwise? They're connected, Sophie. Organized crime. The buyer, Luca Moretti, he's the head of the family. And when he came to look at the building, he asked specifically about you. The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of my table for support. What? He wanted to know which apartment was yours, how long you'd lived here, if you'd had any problems. Kowalski's hands were shaking now. I told him everything. I was scared not to. These people, they're not— Get out. My voice came out steady despite the roaring in my ears. Get out of my apartment. Sophie, I'm sorry. I just thought you should know. Out. He fled. I locked the door behind him and stood there, breathing hard, trying to process what I'd just learned. Luca Moretti, Mafia. He'd bought my building. He'd asked about me specifically. The umbrella suddenly felt sinister instead of generous. The thank you note felt like a claiming instead of gratitude. I'd given a mobster my umbrella, and now he'd bought my entire apartment building. This can't be real, I whispered. But even as I said it, pieces clicked into place. The expensive car. The tailored suit despite the rain. The way he carried himself like someone used to being obeyed. The tattoos on his knuckles that probably meant something specific in his world. And his eyes when he looked at me, like he was memorizing every detail. I'd been an idiot. A naive, exhausted idiot who'd wanted to do something kind and had instead walked straight into something dangerous. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello? Sophie Bennett? A woman's voice, crisp and professional. This is Margaret Chun from Moretti Holdings. I'm calling to inform you that as of today, all maintenance requests for your building will be handled through our office. We've received a list of outstanding issues and wanted to assure you that repairs will begin immediately. What? Specifically for your unit radiator replacement, window resealing, and electrical inspection. Our team will be there tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Will you be available to provide access? How do you know what needs to be repaired in my apartment? A pause. Mr. Moretti personally reviewed all tenant complaints. Yours were prioritized. Of course they were. Fine, I managed. Tomorrow at 9. I hung up and immediately called Maya. I think I'm in trouble. The repair team arrived at exactly 9 a.m., which was 15 minutes after I dragged myself out of bed following a sleepless night. They were professional, efficient, and completely unsettling. 3 men in matching Moretti Holdings uniforms who treated my apartment like it was the Sistine Chapel, carefully protecting my furniture with drop cloths before starting work. The radiator they installed was brand new, state-of-the-art, and completely out of place in my decrepit apartment. They resealed every window, replaced the ancient electrical outlets, and fixed a leak in my bathroom ceiling I hadn't even reported because I'd assumed it was hopeless. All set, Miss Bennett? The team leader handed me a card. If you have any other issues, call this number directly. Mr. Moretti wants to ensure all tenants are comfortable. I'll bet he does. I thought but didn't say. After they left, my apartment was warm for the first time in months. The radiator hummed softly, pushing heat into every corner. I should have been grateful. Instead, I felt trapped. Maya came over that evening with Thai food and wine. We sat on my floor. I didn't have a table big enough for 2, and she made me tell her everything 3 times. Okay, she said finally, pouring herself a second glass of wine. Let's think about this logically. What do we actually know? He's in the Mafia. He bought my building. He's having my apartment fixed. We know he gave you an expensive umbrella after you were kind to him. We know he's making necessary repairs to a building he now owns. We don't know anything sinister. Maya, he's literally an organized crime. So are half the landlords in Boston. They're just not as honest about it. She pointed her chopsticks at me. I'm not saying trust him blindly. I'm saying don't panic yet. Maybe he's just a decent guy who happens to have a complicated job. Decent guys don't run crime families. Decent is relative. Did he threaten you? No. Has he done anything to hurt you? No, but has he done anything except be unexpectedly generous? I stared at my wine. She had a point, much as I hated to admit it. Luca hadn't done anything threatening. If anything, he'd improved my life working heat, sealed windows, the promise of an apartment that wouldn't fall apart around me. But that was what made it terrifying. Because generosity from dangerous men came with strings attached. Always. I need to talk to him, I said. I need to tell him to leave me alone. And how exactly are you going to do that? Do mobsters have office hours? Before I could answer, someone knocked on my door. We both froze. Maybe it's Mrs. Rodriguez, Maya whispered. But I knew somehow that it wasn't. I opened the door to find Anthony Russo standing in my hallway. He was even more intimidating than I'd imagined from glimpses through windows 6'4" of solid muscle poured into a black suit. His hands, folded in front of him, were covered in tattoos. His face was all hard angles and old scars. Miss Bennett. His voice was surprisingly gentle. Mr. Moretti would like to speak with you. Downstairs. He's waiting in his car. And if I don't want to speak with him, then I'll tell him that and he'll leave. Anthony's expression didn't change. But he hopes you'll give him a few minutes. To explain, Maya appeared behind me, all 5'2" of her, trying to look threatening. She's not going anywhere with you. I'm not asking her to go anywhere except downstairs to a car that will remain parked on a public street. Anthony's eyes flicked to her, then back to me. 5 minutes of conversation. That's all he's requesting. Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door. But curiosity won, because I needed to know what Luca Moretti wanted from me. I needed to look him in those whiskey eyes and demand answers. I'll be right back, I told Maya. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police and probably also the FBI and maybe the National Guard. She grabbed her phone, already unlocking it. Anthony led me downstairs in silence. The black car I'd first seen him beside was parked in front of my building, engine running. The back door opened as we approached, and there he was. Luca Moretti, even more devastating than I remembered. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car would if I owned one, a white shirt open at the collar, revealing more of those intricate tattoos that wound up his neck. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. But it was his eyes that caught me, those amber eyes that seemed to see straight through every defense I'd ever built. Sophie, he didn't smile, but something in his expression softened. Thank you for coming down, please. He gestured to the seat beside him. I didn't get in. 5 minutes. You can talk from there, I can listen from here. Fair enough. He leaned back and I noticed he looked tired. Shadows under his eyes, tension in his shoulders. I owe you an explanation. You think? A ghost of a smile. I didn't plan this. The building. When you gave me your umbrella that night, I was genuinely just a man with a broken car and a dead phone. I didn't know who you were, where you lived. I thanked you and assumed I'd never see you again. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. About you. He rubbed a hand across his jaw, looking almost embarrassed. No one has shown me genuine kindness in a very long time, Sophie. Everyone wants something: power, money, protection. You wanted nothing. You just saw someone who needed help, and you helped. It what? Extraordinary. The word hung between us. So yes, I had someone track down your information. I wanted to return the umbrella properly, to say thank you. When I learned where you lived, I discovered the building was for sale. The owner had debts, bad debts, to people I know. People who would have made everyone here miserable while they tried to squeeze money from your landlord. So you bought it. I bought it. He met my eyes steadily. And I intend to make it livable. Not because I expect anything from you, but because you deserve a place that doesn't freeze you in winter or leak when it rains. You could have just left me. Alone. I could have. Something flickered in his expression, regret, maybe, or longing. But I didn't want to. I wanted to help you the way you helped me. Is that so wrong? Yes, I wanted to say. Because you're dangerous. Because this whole situation is insane. Because I can feel the pull between us even now, standing 5 feet apart in the cold October night, and that terrifies me more than anything else. But what came out was, what do you want from me? Nothing. He said it simply, with absolute conviction. I want nothing from you, Sophie Bennett. I just want to know that you're safe, that you're warm, that you don't have to work yourself to exhaustion just to survive. Why? Because you gave me an umbrella. His smile was sad now, tinged with something I couldn't name. And in my world, kindness is rare enough that when I find it, I protect it. We stared at each other. Behind me, I heard my apartment building breathing, radiators humming, water running through fixed pipes, warm air pushing out the cold. He'd done this, changed my life with casual ease, like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing, it was everything. I don't know what to do with this, I admitted quietly. With you. You don't have to do anything, live your life. Work at the hospital. Take care of your mother. He knew about my mother. Of course he did. Let me make sure your home is a place you can rest, not another thing you have to fight against. And what if I want you to leave me alone? Then I will. He leaned forward and I saw the truth in his eyes. Say the word, Sophie, and I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. The building will stay fixed, that's already done. But I'll stay away from you. Completely. It was what I should have wanted. What I should have demanded. But standing there in the cold, watching the way the streetlight caught in his dark hair, remembering the warmth of his hand when he'd taken my umbrella, I realized I didn't want him to disappear. I wanted to understand him. This contradiction of a man who ran a criminal empire but fixed apartment buildings, who inspired fear in my landlord but looked at me like I was something precious. I don't want you to disappear, I heard myself say. But I don't want you to run my life either. I wouldn't dream of it. That almost smile again. You're far too stubborn to let anyone run your life. How would you know? Because stubborn people don't give their only umbrella to strangers in the rain. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. This is a copy of your lease. Same rent as before, same terms. The only difference is that repairs will actually get done. No strings, no expectations. Just a warm apartment and working plumbing. I took the envelope with shaking hands. This is insane. Probably. He settled back in his seat. But I stopped caring about sanity the moment you smiled at me through the rain and told me your broken umbrella was better than nothing. Anthony appeared at my elbow, silent as a ghost. Miss Bennett should get inside. It's cold. Yes. Luca's eyes never left mine. Boo not, Sophie. Sleep well in your warm apartment. The car door closed and they drove away, leaving me standing on the sidewalk with a lease agreement and more questions than answers. Maya was waiting in my doorway, phone in hand. Well? I have no idea what just happened, I admitted. But I think my life just got a lot more complicated. She looked at the envelope, then at me, then burst out laughing. Girl, you gave an umbrella to a mafia boss and now he's your landlord. This is the most absurd meet-cute in the history of meet-cutes. It's not a meet-cute. It's a disaster. It's both. She threw her arm around my shoulders. Come on, let's finish that wine and discuss how we're gonna navigate you maybe kinda sorta dating a mobster. I'm not dating him. Yet, she's saying. You're not dating him yet? I wanted to argue. But as I glanced back at the street where Luca's car had disappeared, I felt that pull again stronger, now undeniable. Maya was right. This was going to be complicated. A week passed with no sign of Luca Moretti. The building repairs continued, new security system, repainted hallways, updated fire alarms. Every improvement was professional, necessary, and completely unsettling, because each one reminded me of him, of his promise to take care of what mattered to me. Work became my refuge. At the hospital, things made sense. Patients needed help, I provided it, cause and effect. No mysterious mobsters buying buildings or leaving expensive umbrellas. Sophie, you've been staring at that chart for 5 minutes. Maya waved her hand in front of my face. Earth to Bennett. Sorry. I blinked, refocusing on the patient information. Mr. Patterson, 72, post-op hip replacement. Just tired. You're always tired. But this is different. She lowered her voice, glancing around the empty nurse's station. Have you heard from him? No, and I don't want to. Liar, she was right, and we both knew it. I checked my phone too often, jumped every time someone knocked on my door, found myself scanning crowds for a tall man in expensive suits. It was pathetic. Miss Bennett? A voice made me turn. Anthony Russo stood in the hallway, looking completely out of place among the medical equipment and fluorescent lighting. He held a brown paper bag and 2 coffee cups. Maya grabbed my arm. How did he get past security? Mr. Moretti thought you might be hungry. Anthony set the items on the nurse's station counter. Lunch from Giacomo's, and real coffee, not whatever that is. He gestured at our break room with barely concealed disgust. Giacomo's was the most exclusive Italian restaurant in Boston. Reservations booked months in advance, prices that made my eyes water. I'd walked past it once and felt poor just looking at the menu. I can't accept this. You can and you will, because Mr. Moretti was very specific that you needed to eat. Anthony's expression softened slightly. He saw your schedule, 12-hour shift, no break for 6 hours. That's not sustainable. How does he know my schedule? He knows everything about what matters to him. Anthony turned to leave, then paused. He's not trying to control you, Miss Bennett. He's trying to take care of you. There's a difference. Is there? I called after him, but he was already gone, disappearing down the hallway like smoke. Maya opened the bag and whistled. Okay, this is gourmet. I'm talking handmade pasta, real prosciutto, aged parmesan. She pulled out containers. There's enough here for both of us. I shouldn't. Sophie, honey, I love you, but you're being ridiculous. The man sent you lunch. Eat the lunch. You can have your moral crisis on a full stomach. She was right. Again, I was starving, and the food was incredible, rich carbonara, fresh bread, tiramisu that tasted like clouds. We ate in silence, and I tried not to think about Luca knowing my schedule, caring about my break times, sending food that probably cost more than my daily wages. But I couldn't stop thinking about it, about him. That night, coming home to my newly warm apartment, I found another envelope under my door. My heart hammered as I opened it, not a note this time. A business card, heavy stock, embossed lettering. Luca Moretti, Moretti Holdings LLC, a phone number. Nothing else. The message was clear. If you need me, call. I put the card in my wallet next to my hospital ID and my mother's photo. I told myself I'd never use it. I was lying again. 2 weeks after Luca bought the building, my mother had her first physical therapy session. I visited her that evening, walking into Shady Oaks with my usual mix of hope and dread. Sophie. Carol, the head nurse, met me at the entrance. You should have seen her today. She moved her left hand. Actually moved it. The therapist says with consistent sessions, she might regain significant function. I felt tears prick my eyes. Really? Really? Dr. Matthews wants to increase sessions to 3 times a week. I know that's more out of pocket, but the progress potential. Do it. I didn't even think about where the money would come from. This was my mother. Whatever she needs. Mom was awake when I entered her room, her blue eyes bright with something I hadn't seen in months. Hope. I took her good hand and told her about my week, about the building repairs, about Maya's terrible jokes. I didn't mention Luca. Some things were too complicated to explain, even to your mother. When I left an hour later, I did the math in my head. 3 therapy sessions a week, at $100 per session. That was $1,200 a month. On top of rent, utilities, groceries, my own expenses. I'd have to pick up more shifts. Maybe find a weekend job, something. The exhaustion hit me on the walk home. Not just physical tiredness, but bone-deep weariness. I was 28 years old and I felt ancient. How much longer could I keep this up? I was so lost in thought that I didn't notice the car following me until it pulled alongside. Black, expensive, familiar. The window rolled down. Luca looked out at me, and even in the darkness, his eyes found mine. Get in, Sophie. No. Please. He said it quietly, with no command in his tone. Just request. It's late. Let me drive you home. I'm already almost there. Then it's barely out of my way. He leaned over, opening the passenger door. 5 minutes. That's all. Against my better judgment, I got in. The interior smelled like leather and that cologne I remembered from the rain. He pulled back into traffic, driving with casual confidence. How's your mother? He asked. I stiffened. How do you know about? I know you visit her every Tuesday and Thursday. I know she's at Shady Oaks. I know she had a stroke 6 months ago. He kept his eyes on the road. I also know her insurance doesn't cover the physical therapy she needs. Stop, my voice cracked. Stop knowing things about me. I can't. He finally looked at me, and the raw honesty in his expression made my breath catch. I tried, Sophie. I tried to stay away, to leave you alone like you asked. But I can't stop thinking about you, about how hard you work, about how much you carry. That's not your problem. What if I want it to be? The question hung between us as he pulled up in front of my building. He put the car in park but didn't turn off the engine. I don't understand you, I whispered. I don't understand any of this. I know. He reached over and I thought he might touch me, but his hand stopped inches from mine. Can I tell you a story? What kind of story? About why an umbrella mattered so much to me. He settled back in his seat, eyes distant. My mother died when I was 10. Cancer. Toward the end, she was in so much pain, but she still tried to take care of me. Made my lunch, helped with homework, tucked me in at night. She was dying and she was still protecting me. His voice roughened. The last time I saw her, it was raining, just like the night I met you. She was being transferred to hospice and I didn't have a coat. Some nurse, I never learned her name, she gave me her cardigan, told me to keep warm. Such a small thing. But it was the last kindness anyone showed me before my world fell apart. He turned to me. When you gave me that umbrella, you reminded me that people like that still exist. People who see someone struggling and just help. No agenda, no expectation. Just kindness. Tears burned behind my eyes. Luca, I don't want to make your life complicated, Bella. I want to make it easier. Let me pay for your mother's therapy. Let me help. I can't let you do that. Why not? Because I struggled for words. Because then I owe you. And owing people like you, people like me? His smile was bitter. You mean dangerous people, criminals. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He looked away. You're right to be cautious. My world is dangerous. The things I do, the choices I make, they're not for someone like you. But that doesn't change the fact that I want to help you. That I care what happens to you. You don't even know me. I know you work doubles to pay for your mother's care. I know you eat ramen because it's cheap. I know you gave a stranger your umbrella in the rain because you thought he needed it more than you did. His eyes met mine again. I know enough. The engine hummed. Rain started to fall, gentle drops against the windshield. Just like that night, just like the beginning. If I let you help, I said slowly, what do you want in return? Have dinner with me, I blinked. What? One dinner? Let me take you to a nice restaurant, have a conversation, get to know each other like normal people. His smile was self-deprecating. Well, as normal as we can manage. That's it? Dinner? That's it. No strings, no expectations beyond pleasant company. He paused. And maybe, if you enjoy yourself, we could do it again. But that's your choice. Always your choice, Sophie. I should have said no. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to refuse, to walk away, to keep the barrier between my life and his world. But I thought about my mother moving her hand, about hope, about the possibility of something more than just survival. One dinner, I heard myself say, but I pay my own way. Absolutely not. Then no deal. He laughed, a real laugh that transformed his face. You're going to be trouble, aren't you? Probably. Good. He pulled out his phone. Give me your number. I'll have someone call you about your mother's therapy bills. Luca, it's already done, Bella. Accept it. His voice softened. Please, let me do this one thing. Everything else we negotiate, but this? Let me help her. I gave him my number. What else could I do? The call came the next morning. A woman named Maria from Moretti Holdings informing me that Shady Oaks had been instructed to bill all of my mother's therapy sessions directly to them. No questions, no paperwork, just done. I sat on my bed and cried. Not sad tears, overwhelmed tears. Because in one conversation, Luca had removed a burden I'd been carrying for months. Maya's reaction when I told her was predictable. You're going on a date with him. It's not a date. It's dinner. That's what a date is, Sophie. It's payment. For helping with Mom. Girl, please. He helped with your mom because he wanted to. The dinner is because he likes you. She gave me a look. And you like him too, even though you're trying real hard to pretend you don't. He's in the Mafia, Maya, so? You think half the guys I've dated were saints? At least this one is honest about what he does. She flopped on my bed. Look, I'm not saying marry the man. I'm saying have dinner, see what happens. Maybe he's awful. Maybe you'll hate it. Or maybe what? Maybe you'll find out that sometimes the most unexpected people can be exactly what we need. The text came that evening. Saturday, 7 p.m., I'll pick you up. Dress nice but comfortable. I had 3 days to panic. 3 days to change my mind, to back out, to do the smart thing. But when Saturday came, I found myself standing in front of my closet trying to figure out what nice but comfortable meant. I settled on a simple black dress, the only fancy thing I owned, bought for a hospital gala 2 years ago, and my best shoes, which had a heel low enough that I wouldn't break my ankle. Maya came over to help with hair and makeup, transforming my usual exhausted nurse look into something almost elegant. You look beautiful, she said, stepping back to admire her work. He's going to lose his mind. I look like me, just with better concealer. Exactly. You look like the best version of you. She hugged me. Have fun. Text me if you need an escape. And for God's sake, enjoy yourself. When's the last time someone took you somewhere nice? Never, I wanted to say. Because it was true. I'd never been the girl who got taken to fancy restaurants. I was the girl who split pizza and called it romance. At exactly 7 p.m., there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Luca, and my breath caught. He wore a dark suit that fit like it had been made for him, which it probably had, and a crisp white shirt open at the collar. His hair was styled back, showing the strong lines of his face. But it was his expression when he saw me that made my heart stutter. He looked stunned. Bella, he breathed. You're beautiful. You clean up pretty nice yourself. His smile was warm, genuine. Shall we? Anthony drove us to a restaurant I'd never heard of, tucked in the north end in a building that looked like someone's home. No sign, no menu in the window. Just a door that opened to reveal warmth and candlelight and the smell of incredible food. Luca, an elderly woman, appeared, her face lighting up. She grabbed him in a fierce hug, then turned to me. And this must be Sophie. Benvenuta, cara. Welcome. Nonna, Luca's tone was affectionate. This is my grandmother, Gianna Moretti. She owns this restaurant. Not just owns, Nonna corrected, squeezing my hands. I cook. Come. I have the perfect table for you. She led us through the dining room, intimate, expensive, with patrons who looked like they belonged in magazines, to a private corner. Candles flickered on the table. Wine was already breathing in a crystal decanter. Nona will take care of everything, Lucas said as we sat. She's the real boss of this family. Smart boy, Nona pinched his cheek, making him laugh. You keep this one, Sophie. He's a good boy under all that serious. Then she was gone, leaving us alone in our candlelit corner. I'm sorry if this is too much, Lucas said. I wanted somewhere we could talk without being interrupted. It's beautiful, and it was. Overwhelming but beautiful. Your grandmother seems wonderful. She raised me after my mother died. Taught me everything important: how to cook, how to treat people, how to be a man. His smile was soft. She loves you. She doesn't even know me. She knows I brought you here. That's enough. He poured wine into my glass. I haven't brought anyone to meet Nona in 5 years. Why me? Because you're different. He said it simply. Because when I'm with you, I feel like something other than what I am. Something better. Before I could respond, Nona returned with the first course bruschetta that tasted like summer, burrata that melted on the tongue, prosciutto so thin it was almost transparent. Heine returned with the first course bruschetta that tasted like summer, burrata that melted on the tongue, prosciutto so thin it was almost transparent. Eat, she commanded. You're too skinny, both of you. Luca, when do you eat? Sophie, you work too hard. I can see it in your eyes. She bustled off again, and Luca raised his glass. To unexpected kindness. And the woman brave enough to offer it. I clinked my glass against his. Hoping I don't regret this. Fair. He took a sip, then set down his glass. Ask me anything, Sophie. I promised honesty. You deserve it. So I did. Over courses of homemade pasta and braised short ribs and vegetables I couldn't name, I asked about his life. He answered without hesitation, without sugarcoating. Yes, his family was involved in organized crime, gambling, some protection, real estate. But also legitimate businesses, restaurants, construction, import-export. Yes, he'd done things he wasn't proud of. Violence was part of his world, unavoidable when you led a family like his. No, he didn't hurt innocents. His code was strict. Protect the vulnerable, punish those who chose this life and betrayed it, leave civilians alone. I'm not a good man, he said quietly, but I try to be a fair one. Why? I leaned forward. Why not just get out? With your resources, you could do anything. Because this is my family's legacy. My father built this, my grandfather before him. I can't just walk away. He paused, but I can try to make it better. Protect more people, hurt fewer. Build legitimate businesses alongside the others. Change it from the inside. That sounds lonely. It is. His eyes met mine. Until recently, my heart hammered. Luca, I know this is insane. I know you have every reason to run, but I can't lie to you, Bella. From the moment you smiled at me in the rain, you've been in my head. In my heart. He reached across the table, palm up, offering. I don't know what this is, but I'd like to find out. If you're willing, I looked at his hand. Tattooed knuckles, strong fingers, a lifeline that probably predicted violence and power. But also gentleness when he'd taken my umbrella. Also care when he'd fixed my building. Also honesty, sitting here telling me truths that could make me run. I put my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine, warm and sure. Thank you. I'm probably crazy. Probably. His smile was devastating. But if you are, then so am I. Nona brought tiramisu and espresso, saw our joined hands, and actually clapped. Finally. This one, he needs someone to make him smile. You do that, Kara. You make my grandson smile. After dinner, Luca walked me to his car, but instead of getting in, he paused. It's a nice night. Would you like to walk a bit? I nodded, and we strolled through the North End, past bakeries and cafes, under strings of lights that made the old neighborhood glow. He kept my hand in his, and we talked about small things, favorite foods, books we'd read, places we wanted to travel. He told me about his mother, how she'd loved gardening. How he still kept plants in his office, even though he killed most of them. I told him about nursing school, about the first patient I'd lost, and how Maya had held me while I cried. We were just two people walking and talking. For those stolen hours, his world and mine didn't matter. There was just us. I should get you home, he said finally, reluctantly. You work tomorrow. Double shift. I made a face. Then you need sleep. We walked back to the car, and this time I let Anthony drive us without protest. At my building, Luca walked me to the door. We stood in the glow of the newly installed security lights, another one of his improvements, and I didn't want the night to end. "Thank you," I said, "for dinner." "For everything. The pleasure was mine, Bella." He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered on my cheek. "Can I see you again?" "Yes." "When?" "I don't know. Soon?" "Soon?" He smiled. "I'll count the hours." He leaned in and I thought he might kiss me. I wanted him to kiss me. But at the last second, he pressed his lips to my forehead, instead gentle, reverent, leaving me aching for more. "But not, Sophie." "Sweet dreams." I watched him drive away, then floated up to my apartment where Maya was waiting with wine and demands for every detail. "You're glowing," she said. "Like, actually glowing. What happened?" I sat down trying to process. I think I just had the best first date of my life. With a mobster, with a man who makes me feel seen. I looked at her. "Is that crazy?" "Probably," she grinned. "But the best things usually are." That night, lying in my warm bed in my fixed apartment, I let myself imagine possibilities. Luca and me finding a way to make this work. Building something real despite the complications. It felt dangerous and thrilling and absolutely terrifying. It felt like falling. The next 3 weeks blurred together in a haze of work, visits with Mom and Luca. He appeared in my life like clockwork coffee delivered after night shifts, text checking if I'd eaten, flowers that showed up at the nurse's station with cards that made Maya squeal. We had dinner 3 more times, each one peeling back another layer of who he was. I met Anthony properly, learned he'd been with Luca's family since they were teenagers. Met Maria, who ran Moretti Holdings' legitimate operations with ruthless efficiency. Met other members of Luca's inner circle, each one treating me with careful respect that was equal parts flattering and unnerving. But we hadn't kissed, not really. Four kisses, cheek kisses, his lips brushing my knuckles, and old-fashioned courtesy. But never the full kiss I craved with increasing desperation. "He's being respectful," Maya said when I complained. "Letting me set the pace. Well, I'm setting a faster pace." "How do I tell him that?" "Use your words, Sophie." "You're a grown woman," but I didn't have to use words. Because everything changed the night Marco Vitali decided I was a weakness worth exploiting. I was leaving the hospital after a particularly brutal shift 2 codes, 1 patient death, the kind of day that left you emotionally wrung out. It was past midnight, raining again, and I was too tired to be properly cautious. The van pulled up fast. 2 men jumped out. I didn't even have time to scream before a hand clamped over my mouth and I was being dragged backward. "Don't fight," a voice hissed in my ear. "Make this easy and you don't get hurt." But I was a nurse, I knew where to hit to make it hurt. Elbow to the solar plexus, heel scraping down a shin, all the self-defense moves the hospital made us learn. One man cursed and loosened his grip. "Help!" I screamed. "Help me!" Then something hit the back of my head and the world went dark. I woke up with a splitting headache in a room I didn't recognize. Basement, maybe concrete floor, harsh fluorescent lighting, the smell of mold and old fear. My hands were zip-tied behind me, looped through a chair. My head throbbed where they'd hit me. "She's awake." A man appeared, mid-40s, expensive suit, cold eyes. "Miss Bennett, I'm Marco Vitali." I apologized for the dramatic introduction. "Let me go." I tried to sound strong, but my voice shook. "Soon. First, we need to have a conversation about Luca Moretti." He pulled up another chair, sitting across from me like we were having tea. "You're close to him. That makes you valuable. I don't know anything about his business. I don't need you to know anything. I just need him to care about you." "Which he does, very much." Marco smiled. "He's been different lately. Distracted. My sources say it's because of a nurse he can't stop thinking about." "That would be you." Fear clawed up my throat. "He'll kill you for this. He'll try. But first, he'll give me what I want: territory, accounts, access to his operations. Because if he doesn't, you'll suffer, slowly." He leaned forward. "So you see, Miss Bennett, you're the key to everything. All you have to do is stay here and be afraid. Can you do that?" Before I could answer, my phone rang in his pocket. He must have taken it. He pulled it out, saw the screen, and grinned. Perfect timing. "It's him," he answered, putting it on speaker. "Luca, we need to talk about something you've lost." If you hurt her, Luca's voice was pure ice, more terrifying than any yelling. She's fine for now. But her continued health depends on your cooperation. Marco's tone was pleasant, conversational. I'll send you a list of what I want. You have 12 hours. If I don't get everything, I'll start returning her to you in pieces. Marco, Luca's control cracked slightly. This is a mistake. Take me, let her go. She has nothing to do with our business. She has everything to do with it because you care about her. That's your weakness, Luca. You care too much. I swear to God. 12 hours. Don't make me start the clock with a demonstration. Marco ended the call and smiled at me. He'll give me what I want. They always do when it's someone they love. Love. The word echoed in the concrete room. Luca loved me. I'd known there was something between us, something growing and intense. But love? I thought about his eyes when he looked at me. About the way he touched my face like I was precious. About how he bought a building just to make sure I was warm. Yeah, maybe love. 2 men came in, the ones who grabbed me, looking bruised and annoyed. They zip-tied my ankles to the chair legs, checking the restraints. Then they left and Marco followed, turning off the lights. I sat in the darkness and tried not to panic. I don't know how long I was there. Hours, definitely. Long enough for my hands to go numb, for my headache to become a migraine, for fear to cycle through terror and back to exhausted numbness. I thought about my mother, about who would tell her if something happened to me. About Maya, who would blame herself for not being there. About Luca, who would blame himself even more. Then I heard it, gunfire. Distant at first, then closer. Shouting, more shots, the sound of something heavy hitting a wall. The door burst open. Light flooded in and I couldn't see through the glare. But I heard his voice. Sophie. Then he was there, kneeling in front of me, cutting the zip ties with a knife that looked very sharp and very bloody. His suit was torn, blood on his shirt. I couldn't tell if it was his or someone else's. His face was a mask of fury and fear. Are you hurt? His hands ran over me, checking for injuries with surprising gentleness. Did they? I'm okay. My head hurts, but I'm okay. I was crying now, huge gulping sobs. Luca, he pulled me against his chest, and I felt him shaking. I'm here. I've got you. You're safe. Anthony appeared in the doorway. We need to move. Police will be here in 10 minutes. Can you walk? Luca helped me stand, keeping an arm around me when I swayed. My legs had gone numb from being tied. I think so. He swept me into his arms anyway, carrying me like I weighed nothing. I buried my face in his neck, breathing in his scent, letting myself believe I was really safe. Outside the building, wherever it was, looked like a war zone. 3 cars, all damaged. At least 5 bodies I could see. Men in Luca's organization securing the perimeter, efficient and deadly. Don't look, Luca murmured, shielding my view as he settled me into his car. Just close your eyes, Bella. It's over, but it wasn't over. Because as we drove away, Anthony at the wheel, Luca beside me with my hand gripped in his, I knew everything had changed. I'd seen his world. The violence, the blood, the casual efficiency with which his men had handled weapons and bodies. I'd felt the danger firsthand, understood what being close to him meant. And I'd heard Marco say Luca loved me. At my building, Luca carried me upstairs despite my protests that I could walk. He set me on my bed, then knelt in front of me, carefully checking my head wound. You need to see a doctor. I am a doctor, basically. I tried to smile, but my face hurt. It's not serious, just a bump. Sophie. His voice cracked. I'm so sorry, this is my fault. I should have protected you better. I put my hands on his face, feeling stubble rough against my palms. You saved me. I put you in danger in the first place. No, Marco Vitali put me in danger. You got me out. I leaned forward, pressing my forehead to his. I'm okay. I'm here. Because of you. I can't lose you. He whispered it like a confession. When Anthony called and said you were missing, when I realized what had happened, I've never felt fear like that. Not when my father died, not when I took over the family. Nothing compared to knowing you were in danger because of me. What happened to Marco? He's gone. Luca's eyes were hard. He'll never threaten anyone again. I should have been horrified. Should have recoiled from the implicit violence in those words. But all I felt was relief. Good, his eyes widened. You don't mean that. I do. I held his gaze. He was going to hurt me to get to you. He deserved what he got. Sophie, you're in shock. You don't. I kissed him. Not gently. Not the sweet first kiss I'd imagined during our dinners and late-night conversations. This was desperate, fierce, pouring weeks of tension and tonight's fear into the press of my lips against his. He froze for one heartbeat, too. Then he groaned and kissed me back, his hands coming up to cradle my face with devastating tenderness, even as his mouth claimed mine with barely leashed hunger. It was everything. Heat and safety and desire and relief all tangled together. His tongue traced my bottom lip and I opened for him, tasting coffee and something darker. His thumb stroked my cheekbone while his other hand fisted in my hair, holding me close like he was afraid I'd disappear. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I love you. The words fell out of me without permission. I know it's fast and crazy and probably stupid, but I love you. His smile was blinding. Bella, I've loved you since you gave me that umbrella and laughed at yourself for being kind. I just didn't know if I had the right to say it. You have the right. I kissed him again, softer this time. You have every right. I can't promise you safety. My world is your world. I know. I took his hands, linking our fingers. But I've seen it now. I understand what I'm choosing. And I'm choosing you. Sophie, I'm not naive anymore. I know what being with you means. The danger, the complications, the moral gray areas. But I also know how you make me feel. Safe, seen, cherished. I squeezed his hands. I'm not walking away from that because it's complicated. He searched my face for a long moment, then pulled me close again, holding me like I was something precious beyond measure. I'll protect you, he murmured against my hair. With everything I have. You and your mother, always. I know. We stayed like that, wrapped in each other, until Anthony knocked quietly on the door. Boss. Police finished at the warehouse. Clean, but we should discuss security upgrades. Luca pressed a kiss to my temple. I need to handle this. Will you be okay? Maya's on her way over. I'll be fine. He stood reluctantly. I'll have men stationed outside. Anthony will coordinate. Luca, I caught his hand. I trust you. Do what you need to do. The look he gave me could have melted steel. After he left, I finally let the shakes take over. I was curled on my bed when Maya burst in, took one look at me, and immediately pulled me into her arms. I'm going to kill him, she said fiercely. I'm going to kill Luca Moretti for putting you in danger. He saved me. After you were kidnapped because of him. I know. I pulled back, wiping tears. But I love him anyway. Sophie, I know it's insane. I know I should run. But I can't, Maya. When he held me tonight, when he looked at me like losing me would destroy him, I can't walk away from that. She studied my face, then sighed. Okay, if you're sure. I'm sure. Then I guess I'm learning to live with a mobster in your life. She hugged me again. But if he ever puts you in danger again, I'm going full nurse rage on his ass. I laughed through tears. Deal. The next few days were a blur of police statements carefully managed by lawyers Luca provided and recovery. My mother improved daily with her therapy, actually speaking a few words. The building got even more security upgrades. Anthony became a permanent fixture, managing protection details with quiet efficiency, and Luca was everywhere. Morning coffee, lunch deliveries, evening visits. He moved carefully around me like I was made of glass until I finally grabbed him and kissed him hard enough to remind him I was fine. I'm not broken, I told him. I don't need you to treat me like I'm fragile. You were kidnapped and threatened because of me, and I survived. Because you came for me. Now stop feeling guilty and kiss me properly. He did, pressing me against my kitchen counter with a hunger that made my knees weak. We hadn't gone further than kissing. He was being respectful, giving me time, but I was ready for more. That night, I told him so. Stay, I whispered against his mouth. Please stay. He pulled back, eyes searching mine. Sophie, you don't have to. I want to. I want you. I took his hand, leading him toward my bedroom. Unless you don't want. He had me against the wall before I could finish, kissing me with barely restrained passion. I want you so much it terrifies me. But I need you to be sure. I'm sure. I started unbuttoning his shirt, revealing tattoos I'd only glimpsed before. They covered his chest, his ribs, beautiful and dangerous. I've never been more sure of anything. What followed was tender and intense, Luca treating me like something precious while showing me exactly how much he wanted me. He learned my body with the same focused intensity he brought to everything, finding every place that made me gasp, every touch that made me arch against him. Afterward, we lay tangled together in my small bed, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my back. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "About the family. About what happens next." I propped myself up on his chest. "Okay." Marco's death left a vacuum. Other families will try to move in, test boundaries. The next few months will be complicated, potentially dangerous. He cupped my face. "I can't ask you to wait through that. But I can't ask you to be in the middle of it either. What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want you safe. Which might mean some distance while things settle." "No," I said it firmly. "I'm not going anywhere. We figure this out together or not at all. Bella, together, Luca, that's the deal. I'm in this, all of it, or I'm not in it at all. And I'm choosing in." His smile was radiant. "You're incredibly stubborn. You knew that when you bought my building." "I did." He kissed me softly. "I'll keep you safe. I promise." "I know. And I'll keep being myself, working, helping people, giving my umbrella to strangers in the rain." I grinned. "You'll just have to deal with it. I think I can manage." 3 months later, I stood on the rooftop of my building, the same building Luca had bought after I'd given him an $8 umbrella. The transformation was complete. New roof, weatherproofed walls, community garden that Mrs. Rodriguez tended with religious devotion. It had become more than just affordable housing. It had become home. Luca came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "What are you thinking about?" "About umbrellas. And how the smallest gestures can change everything." He pressed a kiss to my neck. "I've been thinking about that too." "Yeah?" "Yeah." He turned me to face him, and I saw something in his expression that made my heart race. "I've been thinking about how you gave me shelter in a storm. How you saw me at my worst and helped anyway. How you chose me even knowing what I am, Luca, and I've been thinking about how I want to give you shelter too. Not just a warm apartment, though that's where it started." He pulled a small box from his pocket and my breath stopped. "I want to give you my name, my protection, my love. Everything I have, everything I am, forever." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the light. "Sophie Bennett, will you marry me?" I looked at the ring, then at him, then at the city spread out below us, Boston, with all its complications and possibilities. This had started with rain and an umbrella and a moment of kindness. It had grown into something neither of us expected. "Yes," I said, tears streaming down my face. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on my finger, then kissed me with such tenderness I thought my heart might burst. Around us, the city hummed with life. Below us, our building full of families who had safe, warm homes because I'd offered a stranger my umbrella. "I love you," Luca murmured against my lips. "My kind, stubborn, beautiful Sophie. I love you too." I pulled back to look at him. My complicated, protective, surprisingly romantic Luca. He laughed and the sound was pure joy. Who would have thought an umbrella could lead to all this? "I did," I said. "The moment I saw you in the rain. It wasn't true, but it felt true. Because somehow, despite everything, this was exactly where we were meant to be. Together, 6 months later. We stood in Nona's garden. She'd insisted on hosting the wedding surrounded by 2 families that shouldn't have fit together but somehow did. My mother, walking with a cane but walking, beaming as she watched me marry the man who'd pay for her therapy. Maya as my maid of honor, having overcome her suspicions enough to admit Luca was pretty great for a mobster. Anthony stood as best man, his intimidating presence softened by the smile he couldn't quite hide. The entire Moretti organization had turned out, mixing with nurses from the hospital in a combination that should have been awkward but wasn't. Because love, it turned out, was the great equalizer. "Do you, Luca Moretti, take Sophie to be your wife?" "I do." His voice was steady, but his eyes were bright with tears. "Always. And do you, Sophie Bennett, take Luca to be your husband?" I looked at this man who'd bought my building because I'd given him an umbrella, who'd saved me when I was in danger, who'd shown me that sometimes the most unexpected love stories are the truest. "I do, forever." When he kissed me, the garden erupted in cheers. But I barely heard them. There was only him, only us, only this moment of perfect happiness. Later, during the reception, I found myself alone with him for a moment. The party continued around us, but we'd stepped away into the quiet garden. Happy? He asked, pulling me close. Deliriously, I fingered the diamond at my throat, his wedding gift, paired with a note that said, "You gave me shelter. I give you forever." Are you? More than I knew was possible. He kissed my forehead. You know what's funny? What? That night in the rain, when you offered me your umbrella, I almost didn't take it. I thought it was strange, potentially dangerous. Definitely not something I needed. And now? Now I know it was the best decision I ever made. His smile was soft. Accepting shelter from a stranger, letting kindness in. Opening myself to the possibility of you. All because of an $8 umbrella. All because of you, Bella? The umbrella was just the excuse. I laughed and kissed him, tasting champagne and promises. Around us, two worlds continued to merge, his family and mine. Danger and safety, power and kindness. It shouldn't have worked. But it did, because sometimes love doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's messy and complicated and absolutely terrifying. Sometimes it starts with rain and a broken umbrella and a moment of pure, uncalculated kindness. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that kindness comes back to you 1,000-fold. In warm apartments and fixed radiators. In therapy sessions that restore hope. In a man who looks at you like you hung the stars. In a love that transforms everything. Come on, Luca said, taking my hand. Our guests are waiting. And Nona threatened to disown me if we don't try her new tiramisu recipe. Can't have that. We walked back to the party together, husband and wife, ready for whatever came next. Together, always together. Because that's what happens when you give your umbrella to a soaked Mafia boss. He doesn't just buy your building. He gives you the world.